moving from one house to another, and they can't find him on the hatchery, and somebody says, well, I think he's down at one of the houses doing something down there. I'm not sure what he's doing. Everybody must keep in mind that there is no embellishment to these stories at all, that they've all happened. It's true. It's been certified. It's been notarized. They're in some department of records that this has actually happened to a human being. Brian walks in the house, and Jerry is on the stove with it turned all the way up, and he's melting lead in the house over the stove. And he's looking at it like this. And Brian walks in and almost does the, oh my gosh, what is, hey, what are you doing? Can I help you? Well, I think I've got more doses of lead in the time I've walked in than most kids do eating paint in New York. And he's just standing there melting this lead. Tire whitties. So this explains a lot as to why we hear the things we do from him. So there's a reason why the things come out of his mouth. We're going to a wildlife feed not too long after I've moved down. And we're getting all of the food together. We're getting ready to go over to the Snake River Grill. And once again, as we're walking home, Jared's walking beside me, we're walking down, and Jerry says, oh, criminy, I gotta go down and grab Jeff's meat. And Jared looks at me and goes, did he just say that? And Jerry says, what? He goes, repeat what you just said. And he repeats it in his head, and he goes, oh, that didn't sound very good at all. And that kind of stuff happens all the time at Niagara, but it's one of those things that I could not have picked a better place to move to after I came from Mackay. And of all the places I've worked in, there's been some remote places. And you get to looking at your coworkers every once in a while, and you think, I'm gonna kill this person. And the 15 years that I've been down at Niagara, they have literally gone by so fast that I can't even believe it's been 15 years.
You've been doing the lead too, Doug?
No. But the one thing that I have that has really given me some consternation is, and I wondered when it would happen, I have a little 6-year-old over here that's a typical boy, and I have this individual living next door. That's all I can do to keep this kid from going over to Jerry's house. I want to go see Jerry. I want to go see what Jerry's doing. No, you can't go see what Jerry's doing. There's 4 boats out in the front door. There's 16 motorcycles. There's 8 bikes and 19 snow machines. And my kid wants to go over and see what Jerry's doing. No, he's not going to go see what Jerry's doing. And I have loved every minute I've been down there. It has been a phenomenal time that I've been down there, and it was fun to build a brand new hatchery with you. But I got one more story. And it involves a guy that used to work there, and everybody knows him. Paul Dorman worked at Niagara for a long time. And when I first moved down, I was told in somewhat secret that Jerry was not allowed in the vat room. That's one of those where you go, yeah. But he was serious. And he says, no, I'm not kidding you. Jerry's not allowed in the vat room. And I said, what happened? And he, well, let me tell you what happened. We used to have old vats in the old building, and there was a screen, and then there was a valve down at the bottom, and that's how we moved fish outside. We hooked PVC up, pulled the screen, crowded the fish up, ran them through the PVC, and ran them out to the raceway. Well, for some reason, Jerry's a little wound up. Either he's not been able to go fishing when he's wanted to, because he's had to work, which has been a little bit of a problem at the time that I've been there. For whatever reason, he's wound up, and he's, why aren't these fish out? We got to get these fish out. Settle down, we'll get them out. So as they're doing the work, Jerry walks over and he's going, come on, let's get these fish out, let's go. The fish are crowded up, there's no screen, and there's just a valve that's going out to the raceways. And he goes, Paul, let's get going, let's quit screwing around, and he pulls the standpipe out to the settling pond. Oh. The fish are crowded up by the thousands in this black mass, and Dorman goes, what the? And puts it back down. He says, what are you doing? And Jerry says, we got to get these fish out. And he pulls it again. And Paul physically grabs him and goes, leave. Get out of here.
Back
You
to the
just
office.
sent 10,000 fry out to the settling pond. And he goes, oh, no, I did, didn't I? Okay, you guys, I'm out of here.
Keep up the good work.
I now believe that the stuff that's happened, it has been done on purpose. So that people will say to him, don't come in the vat room. Don't come and look at the incubators. I think he's done it on purpose. So that he doesn't have to go do it. It's taken me 15 years to figure that out. So congratulations on being a genius there. But thank you, I've had a great time. Like I said, I couldn't have picked a better place to work this time in my career. Our family loves living next door to you, and I'm so happy that you got your place up in Orofino. And you can expect a knock on the door when that kid's 10 years old, because we're going to come up and see you.
You got it.
I've had a great time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, no. You should just stay up there, Dad.
We'll just do this so we can like all see your face while you're.
Yeah, why don't you sit on the stage there, Joe? Sit on the stage. Yeah. I'm getting old, I got a bad back, that's it. Okay. That's better. All right, anybody else got any good ones? Or bad ones? Oh, I knew this guy would get up here. Oh, boy. Go easy on me, Jerry.
I will. For those who don't know me, I'm Jerry Zinn, and as Joe indicated, I guess I'm kind of responsible for getting Jerry to Idaho. I received a letter one day from Jerry asking if we had any employment opportunities in the company I was with, which was Aqua Health Limited at that time, was a vaccine company. And we didn't have anything, but I knew Jerry Foster at the Rimview hatchery that was owned by Earl Hardy. I knew that he was looking for some people. So I told Foster about Jerry Chapman, and he said, send him out, get him out here. So anyway, we got Jerry to Rimview, and perhaps 6 months later, Joe came along behind him, and so we had both Chapmans. And I was a little bit concerned about Jerry because Jerry Foster has been known to fire people who do a lot of thinking. And it seems like Jerry was always thinking about where he was going to go hunting and fishing next. So I was kind of concerned, but I'll never forget the Chapmans at noon hour. They'd come over with their bow and arrows, and they'd practice shooting at Pepsi cans. And they got really good at it, but I guess the coup de law, so to speak, was a few days later, Jerry comes over. He was really proud of this. He had made an antelope decoy, and I don't know if it was out of cardboard or light plywood, but he had the hand holes and the peep holes through it, and he was so proud of that. And well, then the next day, he started stocking the Pepsi cans behind the antelope thing, so it was kind of funny there. But there's so many stories that I could tell about Jerry, but I'll limit it to 2 or 3. Jerry got me started with walleye fishing and ice fishing, and I'll never forget the first ice fishing episode. Jerry said to meet him at, Jerry and Joe said, meet us at Ridley's. We're going to go out to Salmon Falls. Be there at 8 o'clock. I was there at 8 o'clock, and 8:30, here comes the Chapmans, and that's their trademark, 30 minutes late. I mean, you can count on them being 30 minutes late, regardless what kind of activity it is. But anyway, Jerry pulls up with this pickup, and it's plumb full of stuff. I mean, stuff. And we got out to Salmon Falls Reservoir, and he opens the back of that truck, and he brings out, I don't know, there must have been 10 or 12 sleds, half a dozen buckets of sticks, I call them, but they had bobbers attached with string around them they used as their fishing poles. Then out comes a charcoal broiler, and then an ice auger, and then some more buckets with sticks and bobbers. And I don't remember what all he had in there, but we loaded up the sleds, and you'd think we could just go someplace maybe 100 yards. We had to traipse a mile across the ice, and Chapman gets us there and says, this is the spot. And I says, how do you know this is the spot? He says, this is the spot. So they proceeded to dig, I don't know, drill 20 or 30 holes, set their little sticks and their bobbers up, and they have a little secret where they stick the bobbers on the ice. And I guess the principle of that is, as Jerry said, well, when that bobber goes in the water, you know you got a bite. But he didn't realize that the wind's always blowing at Salmon Falls. And the wind is always blowing those bobbers into those holes. So, anyway, we were out there, and that happened to be one of those days we didn't catch a fish.
Had a lot of bites.
Yeah, he had a lot of wind-blown bobbers that he called bites because, he kept saying, oh, I got a bite over there. So he'd run across to this bobber. I got a bite on this bobber. Well, anyway, he'd check all the bobbers. Never did catch a fish. We only got the fish about 2 hours. So we loaded up all the gear, the sticks and the bobbers and the buckets and 8 or 10 sleds that we pulled back. But, we never got anything that trip, but that was a very memorable trip for me because I enjoyed just watching the Chapmans tend their sticks and bobbers. I mean, it was quite an ordeal. And then Jerry, he told me about one of his favorite places to hunt. And I says, where's that? And he says, Island Park. And I says, well, what about Island Park? I didn't know anything about it till he says, well, it's flat. He called it, it's my fat boys hunt. And I said, my fat boys hunt? What's a fat boys hunt? Well, I had to go to some ADAP meetings in Bozeman, Montana. It's perfectly flat over there. The only climbing that this guy has ever done is at his house at Niagara, because it's a little bit of an incline. You have to walk up from his house up to his office. It's a little incline there. And then when we were out the Salmon Falls Reservoir, he had to stop and pee. He had to walk up the bank a few steps. So that was an incline too. So those are about the sharpest places he's ever had to climb, or steepest places he's ever had to climb. And then one day he says, well, I can always know a fish story is coming up when he says, I'd call him and find out how's fishing, because I knew he went fishing the day before, and he says, oh my gosh, Jerry, you know that there's a story coming. You know that there's either a cooler full of walleye or 2 coolers full of yellow perch. Unfortunately, I never did hit any of those fishing trips with him when we had coolers full of fish. So
the whole fish float on top of the water, so it looks like the cooler's full, right?
yeah, I guess that's the secret. But then one day he said, hey, Zen, I bought a truck. And I said, okay, what color is it? Red. And I said, red? Why would anybody want to buy a red pickup? Well, I found out the story behind this red truck. It seems that the guys that feed the pheasants at the Napa game station, they go out to feed them with a red truck. So I tell Jerry, I says, how was your hunting? And he said, oh my gosh, Jerry. So I knew what it was. He says, I drove my red truck out there pheasant hunting at WMAN, and those pheasants started turning around. And I says, well, did you shoot them on the ground or did you let them go in flight? He says, what do you think? I says, oh, you shot them on the ground. I know how he got so many pheasants. But anyway, I could go on for many stories about Chapmans. But one thing that was always funny, he always had 2 poles when we were fishing. Both Chapmans did. It was a mess because I had 2 also. And you get 6 poles and you get all these fish on. I say all these fish, 1 or 2 fish at one time. But it's a mess. And I have seen him, though, have 2 on at once. And I say, well, which one are you going to reel in? The biggest one, he says. Well, so, there's something to that. But one thing, when you retire and get up to your new house, and I call you about turkey hunting, and you say, oh my gosh, I'm going to be up there the next day because I will figure that you've gone out with the, you go out and feed these turkeys to bring them in. And by the way, what color of jacket should I wear? I want to wish you happy hunting and happy fishing, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. Another thing I forgot to say, I was kind of surprised to get this announcement for this retirement party because I thought he had retired a couple of years ago because I keep calling the hatchery and he's either gone hunting or fishing. And then I think what he told Brian and Doug, he told them to say, if Zen calls, tell him I'm at a meeting. So you go to a lot of meetings.
I got a lot of meetings.
So anyway, enjoy your meetings up there.
Yes, I will, Jerry. You're welcome to come fishing anytime.
I will be up there, and like I said, tell me what color of jacket.
Red or yellow? Well, hopefully that's about all of them.
Almost.
Okay, Joe. What do
You
you
gotta
got?
remember this one.
Uh-oh.
All right, so I'm Joe. I'm his brother-in-law. When I married Kathleen, she said that was a requirement. I had to be named Joe to be a brother, so I fit right in. So, met him when I met my wife a little after that. We came up to Niagara Springs and started hanging out. We moved up here to Boise. And Jerry's always so eager on getting people into fishing and hunting and fixing his boats. One day he wakes me up, we're down there spending the weekend, having fun, playing poker the night before. And it's about midnight, so he decides, he goes, hey, you ever duck hunted before? I was like, no. I says, well, I gotta introduce you to duck hunting. So I was like, sure, whatever. It's Idaho, I guess I had to learn some Idaho things. So we get out there in freezing weather, next weekend when we got the licenses and everything. And we get out there, I'm like, it's freaking cold out here. I'm from Nevada. What the hell are you doing to me? So he's like, oh, it's okay. I got close. I look like the marshmallow man out there trying to shoulder a shotgun up and missing left and right. And I said, well, you just throw a few decoys out there and his ducks just come in. He goes, oh, no, you got to call them. I was like, well, how do you call them? And I swear to God, he says, quack. I says to him, yeah, good one. Yeah. I'm from Nevada, I wasn't born yesterday, but he goes, no, I'm serious. And he gets out there and goes, quack, quack, quack. Next thing I see this drake coming in, he turns his wings, I'm like, you're gonna be shitting me. This thing turns, makes a sharp left, comes diving into the water, I'm looking at him, he's like, boom, shoots my duck. I'm like, all right. So I guess he called it in. So that's where my addiction started. So now, I got duck hunting gear that goes about as deep as my garage is. That's all your fault, by the way. I'm just going to talk to Kathy about that. So, make the long story short, a few years later, he says, you're welcome to bring some buddies down here, hunt, hang out, whatever. I'm not really into duck hunting anymore, but you guys get to use my stuff. And I said, I'll take you up on it. I bring my buddy Bob down to do a little duck hunting with him. And I call him up. He's like, hey, you have a boat that floats? He goes, of course. Because I wouldn't invite you otherwise. I was like, all right. I'm like, so where are we going to hunt? He goes, right down here in Niagara. I'm like, all right. So we go down to the boat ramp. There's a beautiful kayak. I was like, hey, look at this. Where'd you get this? He goes, nice. I was like, I didn't see a single piece of duct tape on it. I was like, wow. This is the neighbors. I was like, no, it's mine. So there's a little boat next to it. It's about, maybe 9 feet long, and it's about that wide. I'm about 250 pounds. My buddy's about 6'4", about 320 pounds. He goes, you guys can take that one. I'm like, okay. He goes, I got an oar. And it's missing about half the plate, and the other one was kind of put together with some duct tape. So he goes, just pedal real hard, and you get to the point of that island, throw about a dozen decoys out there, and you guys will be fine. He's like, well, I thought you were coming with us. He goes, oh, let me just run up to the office, do a couple of things, and I'll join you guys. I'm like, okay. So we go out there, we set out the decoy spread, we make some cover, we carve a pad into a little island, pull the boat up, and Bob goes, Joe, there's water in the boat. I'm like, it's all right. He's like, it doesn't look like very much. Just pull it up real good, and as long as it doesn't water too far, we'll be all right. Jerry will be here. I'll call him on the radio, tell him bring some extra duct tape. So we're out there just about set up, and I can't find my call. And Bob says, well, how are we gonna get these ducks in? What did I say? You just gotta go, whack. And Bob gave me about the same look I gave him a few years ago. And we're just about to start calling some ducks in by quacking. And I see the canoe coming around the corner. He comes and joins us. Fashionably late, like Chapman time, you know. And Bob says, so he shows up right when we set up the decoys and get the spot ready. I'm like, you know what, you got something there. He seems to do that quite a bit. So we get him in there, we start hunting, and I complain about the boat. He goes, oh, don't worry about it. I've had that on the river yesterday up and down, and I did this and that, and it's all good. I'm like, all right, I'll trust you. So we start duck hunting. Bob shoots this nice goose coming in. He shoots a duck right next to him, kind of wounds him. And I guess he was quacking in the wrong corner of his mouth that day, so he can get him nice and close. And duck comes in, Jerry springs up like a spring chicken, takes off running to get another shot at that duck on the water. Runs straight into a damn branch coming out from the tree, splits his head wide open. He comes back down, sits down, he's biting his lips. I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing. I see a trickle of blood coming down his forehead. I was like, you better go take care of everything. That's a pretty good guess. So he goes, okay, I'm gonna go back to the house, put some ice on. So he goes back, he says, I'll be right back. So he takes off with the good canoe. So we shoot another couple of birds. Bob says, oh, I'll get this one. You know, you brought me down hunting. He goes over there. I heard his big splash and cussing and cursing. I'm like, oh my gosh. Put my gun down, run over there. Bob's upside down in the water. Boat sitting like nose up, halfway in the water. Motor's gone. I'm like, this is nice. He goes, man, I took one step in the boat and started sliding out, and water just started gushing in. He says, I knew he said we're going to go hunting in Niagara, but I didn't know that was a boat's name. So we get the boat back in and find some duct tape, patch up the hole, and try and call him on the radios, no answer. So Bob, finally, we get the thing in, and he goes, well, we can't get the motor, lost the oars. I was like, well, you're wet, so why don't you just dive and get the motor? I was like, either that or you're going to freeze to death. It's like 8 degrees out here. So he dives down and gets the motor and gets back up. We shake it all off, and the damn thing started. So the motors are good, the boat's I don't know. So he takes the boat back to shore. I'm like, well, I'll stay here. I don't want to sink with you. So go back to shore, and I'll call for help in case you sink down in the water. And he makes it back. By the time he gets up to the house, a freaking 6'3" icicle. And Jerry can only look out the window. He goes, oh, I think they're done hunting. I think Bob's coming back. And Killeen goes, well, he doesn't look quite right. And Jerry looks out his window. It's like, huh. He comes back, and he's just covered in ice, shivering. You know, they say, what's going on? So they put him in the shower. So about an hour later, Jerry comes walking down the shore. Hey, Joe! I'm like, what? You okay? No, I'm stuck out here. What do you think I am? Oh, okay, I'll be right there. And he comes back with the canoe, a big Band-Aid on his head.
I think there was a, Joe, you okay? Yeah, we need a bigger boat.
We're in another boat. So, you know, that's about how hunting trips go with the Chapmans. Now, I can't really speak for Joe, but
Yeah, I'm a lot.
from the other stories I heard from other people, it's pretty comparable. So that's my duck hunting story with Jerry here, and thanks for getting me addicted.
Yeah, there's got to be some more stories.
Well, I have,
There we go.
this is kind of for both of you, but it was good. Believe it or not, this is not a hunting or fishing story. In fact, when this occurred, I didn't even know that you guys were big hunters or fishers. Because thinking about it, I think this happened in about 1986. If you do the math, he's been here 32 years, that's 31 years ago. I just had met you guys. And actually, Joe a little bit more. He was at Rapid River, I was at Oxbow, and I just barely met you a couple times. What, at the time, I thought, rather than being big hunters and fishers, I thought you were both intrepid downhill skiers. And so, in fact, this story occurred at Brundage Mountain. Right? We met these guys. We're going to go skiing at Brandy's. Meet up there. They're going, okay, you got room in your coat? Yeah. Okay, well this is our first lift ride up, and these guys got coats like this. So what is it? Here. This is my first introduction to a product called wine coolers. And we're loading those things in our coats. Well, aren't the lifties going to be suspicious about that? No. So on the first run down the mountain, we're ducking out into the trees, behind the trees, sticking these wine coolers in the snow. So they'll be nice and cold, and we can find, every run down we can stop and open a wine cooler. Okay, well, and then, the next lift ride up, we're going, oh, here. Because we can't, there's no wine coolers on the lift. I can't remember whether it was you or John. Aluminum ski poles are hollow. and I just got a handle on the top. One or both of these guys had a special set of handles on their poles with a little screw on the top.
It's similar to the bugle tube that he has.
That goes down in the poles, and the ski poles were full of peppermint schnapps. And this was for the lift ride up. Kind of like, pass it over here. One pole makes one lift ride. When it's empty, you go back to the parking lot and refill the poles. And we'd stop and was that a tree? Was the cooler behind that one? Okay, well, sometimes there was a cooler there, sometimes there wasn't.
The more you drank, the harder it was to find it.
I don't know how many were left on the mountain. But about halfway through the day, these guys go down for the refill. Now, back in the 80s, skis were a lot different than the skis that we have now. I think I was skiing on about a 210 centimeter, maybe even 220s. Well skied on long skis. These guys go to the truck and they come back with some 140s. Those are kids' skis. What are you? Oh no! This is special. This is a lot of fun. Okay. So we're starting down, and Jerry said, "Follow me." On these little skis, off into the pucker brush, trees, whatever. I'm still on my 210s.
You need to have short skis though.
I'm still on my 210s.
Fresh powder.
So I think they got out and probably made a couple of runs before I got, I'm in the trees with these big long skis before I get out and gone, Doug, we thought you knew how to ski the trees. Not on these things. Maybe that's what happened to the wine coolers. So anyway, I have since learned that these guys know more about hunting and fishing than they do about skiing. but you do the math, going back 30 plus years, it's amazing how that time has passed.
And then we're still alive.
Yeah, there's that too. So, after all this time and all those adventures, some of which I just thought I'd have a story that didn't involve hunting and skiing. I really don't like wine coolers.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. We'll let you carry beer next time.
Okay, well, good luck.
Thank you, Doug.
Another 30 years.
Oh, you betcha. Thank you. As a quick follow-up to that story, Jordan was helping me unpack yesterday, and he comes and finds these ski poles, and he's never seen them before. And he looks at them and he said, "Dad, this has a plastic cap on it." And honest to God, he goes, "So Dad, what is this for?" And I said, "Unscrew it." And he unscrewed it. "Hey, you can put liquid in here." And I said, "Yes, you can." And the blackberry brandy's still in there. And a Whopper.
It probably was a Whopper.
Whopper was speared on the other end.
taught me how to sturgeon fish. Jerry taught a lot of people how to sturgeon fish. One trip, however, really sticks out in my mind. It was when my dad was coming over. He'd never been sturgeon fishing before. Jerry says, "Hey, let's borrow Joe's raft. We'll go on a raft trip." It's okay. Sounds good. So we go to Joe's place at Hagerman, and we go to one of Joe's garages. Notice how I said that. One of Joe's garages. And we migrate our way to this specific one, and there's this garbage can. And Jerry walks over, grabs and goes, and this heap falls out on the ground. And I knew all about Jerry being a prankster, so I figured, well, this is a practical joke. So he gets out one of those little foot pumps and hooks it up to a bladder, pumps it up, and this thing inflates where it's roughly about the size of this table. Jerry's not small. I'm not small. My dad's got about 70 pounds on me. So we load this thing up with sturgeon gear, and we put in, he said, well, we're going to drift down through these holes, and we're going to fish along the way. So I said, okay. I said, what's the duct tape for? Don't worry about it. Okay. So we hop in and away we go. We made a couple stops. We didn't have any luck. The second to the last time we get in, I look at this raft, and here's this fishing rod with this sturgeon hook just buried in this raft. I mean, just buried. And I said, Jerry, is this a problem? He said, no, we got duct tape. So he puts the duct tape on, and we're drifting down a little bit, and we're paddling a little bit, and I hear, I look back, and Jerry's got this Mickey Mouse bicycle pump hooked to his foot. So, long story short, Ed catches a fish, and we're on our way back. We're about a quarter mile from where we're going to take out. Again, I'm paddling, we're going to hear,